I provide media outreach and administrative services for our project team, Community, Local, and Regional Food Systems, or CLRFS. I'm based in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and work part-time at the School of Human Environmental Sciences in the Dale Bumpers College of Agricultural, Food, and Life Sciences at the University of Arkansas. CLRFS is led by Dr. Kathleen Leong. Dr. Leong is a W.K. Kellogg Distinguished Professor in Sustainable Agriculture and the Director of the Center for Environmental Farming Systems in the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences at North Carolina Agricultural Technical State University. Dr. Leong will speak at the end of our main presentation. For those who may not know, e-Xtension is part of the Cooperative Extension System and is an educational partner with about 50 land-grant universities in the United States. National e-Xtension project teams are multi-institutional, multi-state, and multidisciplinary, bringing the best educational resources to the public. Our CLRFS National e-Xtension project team goal is to put knowledge to action. We provide resource materials, share training opportunities, and foster peer interactions for extension educators, community-based practitioners, and individuals involved in work related to building sustainable, equitable, and just food systems. We are comprised of over 450 extension professionals, university researchers, and food system practitioners from across the country. Currently, our resources for members include working groups, some of which have developed into their own entities, such as the Economic Group and the Racial Equity Group. We also have our Facebook page, Facebook group, and website. The latter is hosted by e-Xtension. Our website is a constant work in progress, and I would like to encourage everyone to contact me with content. I can upload research results or link to your projects and pages, and I'm always looking for good photos for the website. And finally, our current primary resource for our members are the listserv and quarterly open forums. Oh, we're behind a slide.
Oh, this is just to show people where you can find our information. The slides will be available for you after the open forum. We posted on YouTube with the recording. So Katie will do that. And that's her email information right there. And then later she will type her email again in the chat box for your information.
For this open forum, we wanted to provide practitioners, extension agents, farmers, and agricultural producers an opportunity to identify gaps, brainstorm ideas, and share examples to support each other. Farmers and agricultural producers have experienced unprecedented challenges in handling the vulnerability of our food systems. As we move forward to plan for a new season and a new year during the COVID pandemic, there is an urgent need to seek and identify best strategies to support farmers and agricultural producers in adjusting goals and achieving prosperity. So we are happy to have with us today 5 food systems professionals who will share about their projects. We have Sarah Hansen, County Extension Director and Educator, Purdue University. Catherine, I didn't see Catherine. I hope she's here. Nardi?
She's in the waiting room. I think she got in.
Okay. She's the program manager at for the Montgomery County Food Council in Maryland. Yvette Goodyeal is an extension educator, and Carol Roberts is interim director and extension agent, and they're both at the University of Florida. And Tim Woods is an extension professor at the University of Kentucky. So welcome, presenters. Thank you for joining us. The presidential inauguration is happening right now, so we really appreciate everyone being here. And now we can get started with Sarah Hansen.
Yeah, thank you, Katie, for the introduction. For people just joining us, thank you for participating in the open forum hosted by the e-Xtension. And this is a very special day for us to be here to celebrate agriculture and the farmers. Now I will help people, the presenters, to forward the slide. So when you're ready to go to the next slide, just say next slide, please. And then Katie will help us to monitor the time. When you are approaching about 5 minutes to 6 minutes, she's gonna send you a chat to give you an indication. But I need to be fair for all the presenters. So when you achieve about 8 minutes, then we will call a stop, and just wherever you end, we will come back to visit at the end of the open forum. So we have plenty of time. Please don't panic. If you don't have any questions, Sarah, let's begin.
Okay, great. Thank you. Happy to be here today. What I'm going to talk about is something that was put together, some information. Purdue has a DFFS, Diversified Farming and Food System team. So in the spring of 2020, they put together different publications. One of them is called A Guide for U-Pick Producers / Agritourism Sites During the Pandemic. I cannot take credit for all of this information. I just want to acknowledge the Purdue DFFS team. And I'm sure that maybe we can share the article on the Extension website or however we can get that out to people today. Go ahead to the next slide, please. So I know it's a little bit different in every state, and you guys are from all over the US here today. For Indiana, where I'm at, we have our counties color-coded as far as COVID situations right now. And many of our counties are, yeah, you're okay on the slide. Go to where it says info for agritourism. Kathleen, could you move it? Because I'm still seeing the beginning slide. Please. Oh.
We may have lost Kathleen, so.
No, I'm here. This is
okay. Okay.
I can continue talking if you want me to.
Technical stuff here. Just a second, huh?
Okay. But what I'm saying is
this the slide you're looking at?
Yeah, now I see the first one. You can advance to the second one, please.
Well, for some reason, my computer froze.
Uh-oh.
Just a second. Okay. I have a way. Just a second, huh?
Do you want me to continue talking or?
Yeah, go ahead. And
okay, then, I don't want to mess up our timing. So what I was just going to say is about with the situation, hopefully it improves because right now Indiana is almost all red. Red is not a good thing. We have a few orange counties too, but if the situation does improve and we get closer into spring and summer, then there's going to be more agritourism businesses and producers that are having people come to them. And so of course they need a game plan. I think in 2020, a lot of us, we couldn't help it. We just flew by the seat of our pants because this was something that no one had dealt with before. And people did the best that they could. I think now, and even months before now, that's the time to assess a situation and figure out, okay, what worked in 2020 for our business and what didn't work. And like I said, to come up with that plan. So part of that would be to contact the local health department. I think that's helpful just to get more information about what you can and cannot do and more ideas. I don't think it should be a scary thing when you contact the health department of what are they going to do? They're going to come out and inspect us and shut us down, things like that. No, it should be a place for more information and for help. So I would advise producers to do that. Also to just figure out how can we make it work? How can we minimize crowds, not having people all gathered in one place together? And so some of that would be allowing the customers maybe to register for time blocks in advance. For example, if you had a U-Pick berry operation, then you don't just want people coming whenever. You can instead sort of organize how they're going to be showing up and how many people are where, when. Also, if it's possible to increase staff, because you're going to have to enforce more sanitation and have things being cleaned more frequently. So that's just another consideration of potentially increasing staff. I realize that means more paying of people, but it would be nice to have. And then some places, you know, they have animals, they have lots of different high touch situations. So something as simple as more sanitizer stations, hand washing stations, those are things that would be really good going forward to put in place. And then the last bullet here, of course, to encourage less handling of cash, more credit card payments and online if possible. Next slide, please. So here, something else to think about would be contact with customers. How do we, if you're an owner of an agritourism business or you're a farmer, keep up with people and you want them to remember you and visit you, spend some money at your business. So you want to, on a regular basis, contact them. Maybe it's through social media, maybe it's your business website, whatever the normal means of communication would be. It could be a newsletter, just keeping that going. So there's regular contact with customers to think about, oh yeah, I do want to go visit that place and pick out some apples or flowers. I think when you're communicating with your customers, that would also be the time for farmers and business people to just reiterate some of the safety policies, that please don't visit if you have tested positive for COVID-19 in the past 2 weeks, or if you've been in close contact with someone who's sick. Kind of common sense things, but I think it's really good to emphasize them. That way also your customers would know that you're being safe. And you're going to recommend that as they come to visit you, they're following CDC guidelines and even signage, because not everyone's going to get your newsletter and not everyone's going to look at your social media page, but they're physically going to pull up in the parking lot and they would need something to tell them, like in this example, the picture on the slide, attention, here's some guidelines for you coming to our farm to pick berries. Please, have a mask and wash your hands and different things like that. All the rules that we're now pretty much used to on a normal basis. Okay, next slide, please. And I think it really, what I've mentioned so far, things for business people to do, it's a little bit of common sense, but it's meant to, number one, be a reminder of, oh yeah, we need to think about this stuff. We all need reminders of common sense from time to time, and just get it rolling about making the plan now. How can we figure out these logistics? It often leads to more questions, questions like, how do we set up online ordering? How do we schedule pickups for people to come get their CSA? So some people already know about online platforms like Shopify and Square, but some people might need to research that and dig into it and figure out which one you're going to want to use when the summertime comes and you're going to have a really busy season. Other questions like, can we have a musician come? Because that's going to mean a crowd gathers around. How are we going to handle that? How do we enforce the rules? Because that's obviously really hard. You don't want to say something negative to a person who's come to your business, like, hey, get out of here, you're not wearing your mask, but in a nice way, enforcing the rules to keep everybody safe. And the next point about contacting liability insurance, again, sort of like contacting the health department. This shouldn't be a scary thing where you're worried, this is going to cost me money. It's more about doing the right thing and getting information to keep yourself covered. And then that last question there is, do we have to continue? Do we have to push forward? If we literally, in our physical assets, can't handle this influx of customers in a safe way, maybe we put things on pause, or maybe we just don't continue. There's a lot of different choices. I don't think people should feel like they have to move forward if it's going to not work for them and they're not comfortable with it. And so that sign, you can see it's kind of a small picture on the slide, but that's an example, I think, from a farmer's market where they're just saying, we are serving shoppers during COVID-19. So, hey, we're open and we want to be safe. We want people to stay in touch. So here's ways to do all those things. Next slide, please. So I noticed some of our other speakers might have programs like this. This is indianagrown.org, particularly the person on here that's from Kentucky. I think, what do you guys have? It's like Kentucky Proud or something that's promoting the state's agriculture, and it's probably with the State Department of Ag. So this is not a Purdue resource, but I think it's a good one that maybe other people out there across the US have resources. It's literally, a compilation of lists of things that could be helpful for anybody who's in agribusinesses as far as COVID resources. So just wanted to let you know that that might exist out there for your state if you haven't stumbled across it so far, or feel free to look at the Indiana one and it might still spark some ideas for you. Yep, and the last slide, I just obviously want to say thank you. And again, now is the time for farmers, so many of your constituents, to implement plans and start thinking about how they can be safe here going forward into the spring and summer and even the fall season. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And if you have any questions for Sarah, please type them in the chat box. We can come back to visit again. Let's move forward to the next presenter. This is the group from Maryland. Catherine, are you ready?
Yes, hi, thank you so much. So my name is Catherine Nardi. I am here on behalf of the Montgomery County Food Council. I am a programs manager at the Food Council and have worked closely with colleagues at Manna Food Center, the Montgomery County Office of Agriculture, and the Montgomery County Food Security Task Force in Montgomery County, Maryland, to implement and oversee the Farm to Food Bank program. Next slide, please. So the Farm to Food Bank program was a result of the increased need for food assistance amongst Montgomery County residents, as we're seeing across the country, as a result of COVID-19. Since March, there has been an increase of approximately 40,000 residents seeking food assistance on a regular basis, causing food assistance providers to scramble to provide enough food to recipients. Montgomery County was receiving and distributing thousands of boxes through the USDA Coronavirus Food Assistance Program each week, but food assistance providers in our network were still indicating a significant need for fresh produce. Without usual donations from grocery stores and restaurant partners, in addition to general supply chain challenges, the food stocks were low, and we were seeking opportunities to leverage the local food supply to meet this need. At the same time, local farms and food businesses in our community were impacted by the crisis economically. Food producing farms were anticipating having excess product available throughout the 2020 growing season because despite some farms having increased CSA memberships, those who relied on restaurant and wholesale partnerships or farmers market sales, we're seeing a dip in sales at the beginning of the season, and particularly those that relied on restaurant and wholesale partnerships were really scrambling to find economic opportunities throughout the 2020 growing season. So this effort was meant to simultaneously address the growing food insecurity in our community while reducing food waste and supporting our local food economy. Next slide, please. The goals of the Farm to Food Bank program that we established back in June when this launched were first to meet the need for more food in our community by providing locally grown fruits and vegetables to the county's food assistance provider network. Initial agreements that we established with local farms stated a preference for culturally appropriate and shelf-stable foods to accommodate the diverse populations being served, and also recognizing the limited cold storage capacity amongst our food security network. Secondly, we sought to be environmentally conscious at a time when we're seeing so much food go to waste because of the supply chain challenges created by COVID, and wanted to reduce food waste by being a sales outlet for seconds and excess product that our farm partners had available. Last but not least, this program aimed to provide a unique sales opportunity to county farms while increasing the self-sufficiency and resiliency of our local food system for 2020, 2021, and beyond. Next slide, please. So as a result of the Farm to Food Bank program, which again, we launched in late June and it ran through December 2020 of last year, that was phase 1 of the Farm to Food Bank program, we purchased and distributed close to 60,000 pounds of locally grown produce from 11 different farm partners. The farm partners are listed there on the slide, but it was a pretty wide range of small to medium scale farms in our network, some that were just contributing, a couple dozen pounds on a weekly basis that they had available to, 5 to 10 gaylords of corn on a weekly basis. So it really varied. And Manna Food Center, which was the primary food assistance partner participating and leading the program, shared product with 20 different, more than 20 food assistance partners in our network, which again are listed there, but we were able to connect the farm produce across the county through this food security network, and ensuring that residents seeking food assistance didn't have to go to just one place to be able to access local nutritious produce. In October of 2020, we launched phase 2 of the Farm to Food Bank program, which included a capacity building grant program that ended up awarding more than $235,000 across 22 applicants, 22 farms that applied for funding to support capacity building projects that would increase their capacity to contribute product to Farm to Food Bank in 2021. Those projects ranged from equipment purchases, high tunnels, seed purchases, deer fencing, you name it. There were a variety of different projects that we funded. Each farm could apply for up to $20,000 through this grant program. And we're really excited to see most of the funds already being put to work and most of the projects already being set up so that farms can start to contribute to Farm to Food Bank beginning in March or April of this year with the product that they now have the capacity to grow. Next slide, please. And just a quick note on funding for these efforts. Phase 1 and 2 of the program have been supported by county government funding through the Department of Health and Human Services, Federal CARES Act dollars, and that was primarily for purchases in phase 1 of the program, Manna Food Center community funds, and the Greater Washington Community Foundation, which is a local fiscal partner that we worked with to support the grant program. So if you have any questions, I can put my email address in the chat box, and I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to share this information with you today.
Thank you, Catherine. Perfect timing and very good information. Please type your contact information in the chat box because I realized that your information was not on the slide. So people might want to follow up with you. And we will come back for Q&A and after a few minutes. So let's move on to Florida.
Hi.
Hi, you ready?
Sure.
All right.
So glad to be here. My name is Yvette Gooddeal, and I'll be co-presenting with Carol Roberts, where we are both with the University of Florida Institute of Food and Agricultural Science Extension program. So, and we're going to talk about some food system supports, some things that we saw growers take advantage of in our county, in our region, and ways that Extension can help. So next slide, please. So we're going to talk about the first three are things we saw that growers did do that seemed helpful. And then the last is ways that Extension can help. So go ahead, and Carol's going to take the next slide.
Thanks, Yvette. Yes, when the pandemic first began and we saw the upset in the food systems, we actually, Yvette and I were pleased that we had been working already on a food system survey of the Treasure Coast area here in Florida that helped us identify previously the food banks and pantries that were in our area and some of the programs that they had for underserved audiences to help get the food out for them. So we were able to take that information and help our local growers to connect with those food banks and food pantries, provide them a resource for connecting, and talk about some of the gleaning programs that our not-for-profit organizations had spearheaded as a way to kind of bring food to their program participants. And that was needed now for all the state's residents. And the state of Florida was very active. The Department of Agriculture was very active in creating resources to help growers share their information with other outlets for that food. So the next slide, please.
Okay, and something else that we saw that you all might have seen in your communities as well is that it seemed those growers that already had connections with consumers, the consumers flocked to them when the pandemic began. They wanted local produce, and they knew those growers had it, and they flocked to them. And what we heard from some of those growers is that even though they might have been distributing some to other outlets like restaurants, and those outlets kind of fell away with the pandemic or decreased a lot, that the consumers kind of came in and filled in that gap, and sometimes even went above what they had been selling before total. And so that's a good thing as a grower to know. And how do you connect with consumers? And our University of Florida had done a study a while back about consumers and local foods, and found that the consumers, you know, like someone else said, a lot of it is common sense, but the consumers, they want to hear from the growers about, you know, what are they doing? How are they growing things? They want to hear stories about life on the farm, and they want to be able to talk to the farmer and have their questions answered. And so here's a picture of, this is pre-COVID, one of our local farms that does a lot of agritourism, and they were leading farm tours just to do exactly that. And then by bringing in customers, having that connection, some of our growers had on-farm retail and were able to, in some cases, expand it to bring in other growers, so that those growers that didn't yet have those connections with the consumers, they then were able to come market their product directly to consumers at those other farms, on-farm retail. And that was a beneficial collaboration in a way that more growers could connect with consumers to help them in the long run. So next slide, please.
So it was important to us that we provided resources for growers and consumers to find the produce that they were looking for. If you couldn't get directly to a local farm, how could you access that fresh produce? So there were some sites that were created really quick, and some that were already existing that helped consumers connect. And Local Harvest is one that we mentioned here. And what they've done is it's a non-government website that allows growers to post what they have, what they're harvesting, the availability, how to reach them. It connects community-supported agriculture and local growers and some of those outlets that we mentioned before, so they can report all in one place that how to access their wares, their produce. And the other site that you'll see on your screen, feedingflorida.org, was created for food banks to be able to connect together to advertise what they had at their food bank and coordinate resources and able to more evenly distribute the food and help consumers to find the local food banks and what kind of produce they had. So the Florida Farm Bureau and the Florida Fruit and Vegetable Association were instrumental in getting that information out and creating those sites and resources. And the state of Florida, actually, the Florida Department of Agriculture took some funds from the Fresh from Florida program, some marketing funds, and directed it into a Keep Florida Growing site that provided a portal for growers and producers to connect with transportation and consumers to get products to the people. And it was a heavy lift, but it was nice to see how everything came together. Next slide.
So yes, and as Carol mentioned earlier, we had done this food system study and inventory a couple of years ago. We had, and I encourage other communities, if you haven't yet done something like this, think about it. Our initiative, our effort was funded by a grant from the USDA Rural Development Program, and it allowed us to conduct interviews all the way across the food supply chain, from growers to food pantries, distributors, restaurants, institutional buyers, and consumers, you know, homeowners and others. And so through that, we were able to, like Carol mentioned, have an inventory of what we already had in our region. We focused on Martin County, but went outside a little bit as well because it's all connected. So we had that inventory, and then we also had an idea of where our strengths and weaknesses were from all those interviews with participants along the supply chain. And what we found is everybody wanted more local produce, even farmers who had on-site restaurants and on-site retail wanted more local produce to supply those. And so, but it was sometimes about making the connections to get the produce to the people who could buy it, process it, you know, et cetera. So Carol will talk more about how we tried to address that. But basically under share resources, we, you know, we shared that inventory and that needs assessment with our policymakers, you know, our county commissioners, and with all the people that participated in the study, all the stakeholders. And then we just tried to keep people informed about all those things we mentioned on the prior slides, you know, the outlets for produce, the directories, and things, state and federal assistance and things like that.
And just to follow up on the good food connections, it was a result of what we found in that study, and it was really timely, us being able to start this meetup, this virtual meetup for local growers, restaurateurs, food producers, and manufacturers, and to come together once a month in the same room to talk about what they have ready to go, some challenges that they're having getting their produce to the market, or just we're asking people to come together and talk about their food system barriers, and hoping others in the room have a solution for them. And we've had 3 good food connection meetings so far, one a month since November, and we've actually, our 3 for 3, we've seen connections happening in the room where a grower said, I have an excess of this, and somebody else in the room said, we can use that. And it has been a really beneficial tool, and we hope to keep that growing and continuing. Next slide. So if you're interested in how we set up the Good Food Connections meeting, if you'd like to discuss with one of us how the food system study occurred and some of the resources, you have our contact information on the screen. Yvette was instrumental in that food system study. So and she was wonderful in organizing that. Carlita is our partner in the Good Food Connections meetup, and all of us have brought a different expertise to the room.
Yvette, thank you so much. Yvette, do you have anything to add?
Nope, Carol did great. Thank you.
If you think of anything that we will have plenty of time, come back to visit, because people started typing questions in the chat box, and please continue putting your questions in the chat box. We'll come back to visit. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to digest the information and figure out what your questions are. Now, since several people talk about the resources, so I'm just going to share what we have done in North Carolina very briefly. I'm the director for Center for Environmental Farming Systems from North Carolina A&T, and the Center for Environmental Farming Systems, the 3-way partnership between North Carolina A&T, NC State University, and the Department of Agriculture and the Consumer Services. We have a very similar resources site on our website. If you're interested in looking at what we have composed and what we offer, please feel free to access the website for the information. This is very briefly, I want to show you what we have. We have 6 different categories for different type of programs, assistance, connections, networking, events, training for consumers, for market people, for supply chain vendors, for farmers, and the service providers. So that will give you a sense about what we have. And if you go into our resource site, there's a pull down menu to show you by category, from agritourism to procurement to meat to chicken to whatever you're looking for. We have been providing services to our region and local perspective for 26 years now. So we have a lot of information, a lot of history embedded behind our resources site. So feel free to take a look if you're looking for something or something similar you may create for your county, for your government, or for different type of usage. And the French Price actually pointed out that Florida actually has the market maker program. So the county may have the connection with the Florida market maker program in terms of the farmer and the consumer connection aspect. So there are a lot of exciting programs that are going around at the local, state, regional, and the national level. Tim, are you ready to share your story?
Ready when you are.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Kathleen, Katie, and thanks everybody for joining us here on a happy Wednesday. And I'll close up our presentation. I wanted to share a little bit with everybody about our local food systems response to COVID, an AMS project that involves the University of Kentucky and our some university partners that include Colorado State, Penn State. Go ahead, next slide. And this partnership involves quite a network of communities of practice and these different agencies that represent partners across the local food system that represent everything from farmers markets, of course, the food hub space, the retail grocery space, even food co-ops, so many different aspects of our local food system that are involved. Kathleen, the CEFS folks, of course, an important partner there, as well as we try to consider some of the equity issues. And COVID, of course, has impacted our local food system profoundly, but it's also affected different quarters of our local food system in different ways. And we see different kinds of needs, different kinds of resources that have come up as a result of this. And working with these partners through the course of this project that started this past summer, as the COVID impacts were really starting to be felt, was a really valuable opportunity for us to pull these partners together in conversation, but to also work with them to try to get at what are the economic impacts that are distinctive to farmers markets, agritourism space, even the local catch network that looks at seafood, local seafood sourcing. Next slide. Lots of output and productivity. It's just a great team and great efforts on the part of our partners across these networks, and resources that are available to folks. We'll show you here shortly that are products of sector listening sessions, impact assessments by each one of these different sectors, innovation briefs. We get these groups together at least on a monthly call, webinars that are conducted here. I'm going to point you to some of these different resources that if you're really interested in drilling deep into this COVID impacts on the local food system space at a national level, and even to get kind of closer to how is this impacting specific quarters of the local food system, this could be a really good resource for you. Working with Don Tilmany, who I see is on the call here, another important partner with us on this project, we've developed a very extensive national consumer survey. We're in the process of developing these products that also have some really nice quick highlights that you can see how consumers have been affected, particularly in the local food system space. Next. So many things that you can pull off if you're interested in impact assessments that correspond to very specific sectors here. We've got very nice reports that are pulled together, CSAs, farmers markets, the food consumer co-ops, really based on the listening sessions that were done through national leaders in these spaces to pull these measures of impacts, the unique kinds of impacts, some of the particular challenges that some of these folks were facing, but also really trying to get at innovations and strategies that these sectors were adapting nationally. And so many great and resilient examples where folks have done some really amazing things to innovate in this local food system space. We've tried to capture some of those. Next slide. We have a long parade of things that we call innovation briefs. And Kathleen, we could probably do a presentation on any one of these, some very, very impressive efforts of innovations that were brought about as a result of this COVID impact that various folks in the CSA space, the local fisheries space, even specialty grains, local grain space, doing to adapt to COVID and figuring out how do we, our mantra in the project, build better beyond, and adapt as we try to move forward to the other side of this COVID challenge. Next slide. So I'd encourage you to, there's a expanded 3 to 4 pages at the most, a printed version of these on our website. I encourage you to look at these if you've got some interest in some of those, to get some ideas for yourself maybe of some of the innovations that are being done in response to COVID, particularly in the local food system. Next slide. Our resource hub, tons of activity, lots of resources that are put there, and we've worked with our 17 different communities of practice that are contributing their own resources into this site and trying to organize them. It's a searchable database with lots and lots of different data resources, case studies, and issues that are specific to each one of these different aspects of the local food system there that would encourage you to get on there and just kind of browse around a little bit and see some of the different things that our different partners are doing. Next slide. And so just finally, one of the important outputs that we have is a regular webinar series. And looks like we might have oh yeah, it's the right date. Coming up here shortly with our National Association of State Departments of Agriculture, several of our commissioners of agriculture talking about CARES funding in their respective states. I know we've got folks from Colorado and from Iowa that are going to be participating in this. Free webinars, really great conversations amongst leaders in the local food system as they're wrestling at a kind of a national level about how do we adapt the local food system in this COVID environment, and speaking really candidly about some of the challenges and difficulties and things that might have been done right, things that might have been done wrong. But it's just been a really positive conversation that's brought lots of different voices and partners together. So with that, Kathleen, I'll maybe toss it back to you. I'll drop my contact information here in the chat, and would love to hear from folks, but more importantly, encourage you to hop on that website and look at some of the different kinds of resources that folks across our local food system have put together. I think you'll find a lot of that stuff really useful.
Thank you, Tim. Now, for many of you, if you have not signed up to be on the local food e-Xtension working group, please feel free to reach out to Katie. Katie, could you please put your email contact information in the chat box one more time for folks? Because all of these events, upcoming trainings, workshops, and networking opportunities will be posted on the e-Xtension working group website. And Katie also send out reminders to all our membership from time to time. So if you would like to be on our mailing list to receive future information and to be in touch with each other, please feel free to join us. Now, I saw there was a question from Randolph to Catherine. Now, Catherine, would you like to repeat the question and answer, because I think that many other people may have a similar question about that point?
Sure. I saw one question in the chat box about the self-sufficiency and how the program, sought to expand that. Happy to answer any other questions related to the Farm to Food Bank program, anything else that people might have questions about happening in Montgomery County, Maryland, and related to supporting our local agricultural sector.
A question for Tim. Tim, if you're coordinating different efforts, different programs from the national level, how would today's programs or different organizations contribute or to broaden the existing information resource that you have gathered? Is there a way for other people to contribute?
Yeah, I would say there's several ways that I think could be helpful. Part of it would be to, whether it's you see some resources potentially on the, that you might have being developed that you think could be positive contributions into this national resource page that we've developed, either working through myself or with Dawn, or working with one of the community of practice partners that we have listed there on the site that are trying to coordinate things. If you've got a farmer's market resource, for example, to help make a connection with the Farm Market Coalition folks, they're really kind of our point partner in terms of organizing, vetting, coordinating, and bringing these resources into this sort of central repository. But also, with that said, even just today, some great ideas that have been presented in terms of innovations out there in the local food system space is something that our project is constantly trolling the extension community for, the market community for, and wanting to share those stories and those ideas out. And so if you have some ideas like that, that could be something that might get translated into an innovation brief, we'd love to hear about it.
Thank you, Tim. Now it's open for the audience. Anybody, if you have any questions, you want to talk to each other or you want to ask questions, what other information you're looking for that we have not covered today, you'd like to get more, this is an open forum, so you don't have to be mute anymore, but you all don't jump on at one time, okay? So please feel free to unmute yourself or type your questions, the challenges, the gaps, or other things that you need support with, that we're here as a cohort to help each other. So feel free. We have a few minutes of free time here for everybody to interact with everybody. Any thoughts?
Hi, I am in Durham County, North Carolina, and I'm a new ag agent, but I'm also the local foods person here as well. So this is kind of a question for Yvette and Carol. How did you go about starting that Good Foods connection? Because although there's a lot of work everywhere, like on local foods, I think it's very disjointed, and I'm kind of hoping to get that conversation started in Durham as we start to eventually get restaurants opening up again. It's a great time to start those conversations now when people have an opportunity to think forward.
Well, I'll say part of it, and then Carol can add in. I know pre-COVID, we have a local county commissioner's appointed committee that really helped steer the food system study. And one of the people on that committee had done an in-person meet and greet event, a series of them for years in our neighboring county. And so we decided, let's do one for our region. So we did that in the fall of 2019 with this stakeholder committee. And we planned to do one again the next fall, but then COVID came along. And so we, Carol and I and Carlita said, well, let's do something virtual, and let's maybe make it a series, so it's not just one opportunity to get together, and there's chances, there are multiple opportunities. So Carol, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, that was a good start. That you had a great thing going in Martin County, and to provide the basis for invites. But we have a commercial kitchen here in St. Lucie County, the next door neighbor to Martin County, and we made sure that we invited all their members, because those are new food producers who are looking for local resources. We talked to farmers market vendors and invited them to participate, reached out to local growers directly, some organic growers and bigger producers in our county, trying to recruit them, and did include our food banks and some of our social organizations that provide a food pantry. They've been really instrumental in participating, because those connections I've mentioned, they've benefited a lot from those connections. They're trying to meet the needs of their underserved clientele. So our growers have been able to step up and connect with them.
Thank you.
Any other questions for anybody? Any thoughts?
Yeah, and I guess as far as advice of whether to start one or not, definitely, start with the stakeholders and make sure that there's interest among them, and a desire to meet. And we, it's continual. It's nice that we offer more than one of these, so we can continually build upon, the network and keep expanding it. So.
Now, Tim, I'll come back to you. You mentioned several exciting innovation programs. Would you take a few to highlight for us? Is something that's different we don't hear about very often, like a seafood folks? I saw oysters.
Yeah, yeah, it's they're all just I just continue. I've worked in Extension for 25 years, and I see some of the innovative things that some of these folks are doing that I would have never have thought of before. So just with the local catch network folks, that innovation brief is a very clever response by a network of oyster fisheries along the coast of Maine that set up an oyster trail, kind of like an agritourism trail, sort of like a wine trail, or in Kentucky here we have a bourbon trail. Oysters, a big product up there in a lot of those local fisheries that had been hit really hard by COVID, of course, having to adapt to sales that have been going to restaurants and to other retail outlets that had just immediately been shut off, had to be innovative and set up a very successful program like this in collaboration with the Maine Department of Tourism, and encourage folks, just looking at ways how farmers can come together to provide some creative solutions around these. Just maybe one other one I could just mention briefly is, and some of you may already do some of these things, but a virtual CSA fair are some of our folks in Kentucky and in Wisconsin that have traditionally had in-person CSA fairs where prospective shareholders would come together and see their different options there. Well, of course, you can't do that in this COVID environment. And so they put together a very impressive virtual CSA fair that takes this opportunity to bring prospective shareholders virtually, farm to farm to farm to farm, to meet farmers, see pictures of the farm, do these kind of Facebook Live engagement opportunities. And interestingly, ironically, able to make a connection with more prospective shareholders through that kind of space than they ever had. And just like what we're seeing really nationally in the CSA space, a lot of growth and interest in that CSA market channel right now, and needing to be creative in pivoting how we promote those, how we engage with prospective customers. So at least here are some folks that have tried it and sharing out through that innovation brief. Here are some best practices, some things that they had learned on how to do that. And so again, encourage folks that are interested in those kinds of approaches, have a look at those innovation briefs. There's contact information back with the folks that helped develop those. And obviously they're very happy to share their ideas.
Thank you, Tim. I'll come back to Sarah. Sarah, are you still with us? Sarah from Purdue?
She had another meeting at 1 o'clock, so she had to leave.
Okay, then I'll come back to Catherine in Maryland. Catherine, are you still here with us?
Yes, hi.
Hey, now in Maryland, you also have a pretty diverse portfolio with your production and the consumption mix, and also different type of communities. Did you notice that either other counties or from individual perspective, other types of innovative ideas that you could share with us? That's something different that from Maryland that people may not know about?
Sure. So something that I'll share about that is not necessarily unique to Maryland, but something that has been really instrumental over the past few months in increasing food access and supporting local farmers has been the Maryland Market Money Program. And this program provides matching dollars at farmers markets for shoppers using their federal benefits such as SNAP or WIC. Montgomery County in particular has invested more in 2020 than they have in previous years in the Maryland Market Money Program to ensure that county residents and that growing number of county residents experiencing food insecurity are able to have additional food access points, affordable, nutritious food access points at the local farmers markets. And this also benefits, agricultural producers and vendors at the farmers markets because they're able to sell products to additional customers who are coming into the markets because they're able to afford food at those points. So that has been a really exciting development over the past year of just growing that program a little bit more. Even despite the fact that the Maryland Farmers Market Association, who previously ran Maryland Market Money Program, went under actually at the beginning of COVID. They were not able to keep their doors open. So being able to rehouse it under SMATIC was really just so great to be able to continue that program, and just a lot of other new partnerships and coalitions that have been joined over the past couple of months to increase connectivity and just strengthen the local food system and the regional food system. The Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments is a really great leader in the region for bringing those agricultural partners together and just creating pathways for new economic opportunities, but also for addressing food access challenges throughout the community by building those partnerships and ensuring that the local food supply is leveraged as effectively as possible to meet the needs of our communities.
Thank you, Catherine. Now, for the rest of you listening, we're near the end of this open forum. If you have any follow-up questions with the presenters, please feel free to reach out. The recordings, slides, the transcript, and all the nitty-gritty stuff will be available for you on the YouTube channel. On the YouTube link that we will have, and Katie will help us to combine all the stuff together and share the link with the e-Xtension membership. So if some people cannot participate, they will also be able to access the information. Please type in your final thoughts. I will stay online for a few more minutes, but if you all want to stay chat, and then feel free to chat. A lot of people are looking for money, resource, and of course, there's always a concern. What if the federal dollar or the state dollar runs out? What are we going to do? How are we going to help people to maintain the activities and interactions with local farmers? That's always a concern. And also from the health and the nutrition supplement program perspective, we always want to encourage people to eat more fresh produce, cook nutrition food at home and cut the calorie, those kind of things. How about the funding aspect? You know, are you concerned about that? Are your farmer markets, the SAP, the SNAP, the whatever the chip or the machine or the app that people are using to pay for it? You know, a lot of farmers markets do not accept those kind of supplement program dollars. So that's always been a challenge for extension folks to work with. And there are all kinds of things. So type your comments in the chat box, what else you would like to learn and how you see we continue to provide the support from the National e-Xtension Open Forum. I'll be happy to continue and brainstorm ideas with you. I'm a volunteer. I'm not being paid for any aspect. I have my regular pay from North Carolina A&T to provide service. Katie is covered by different grants and her part-time job. So the two of us, plus Mrs. Tiffany, who just happened to support me at A&T, do the work. So the three of us, so we truly enjoy working with everybody once in a while. And you probably see my name, our names from time to time. Please feel free to interact with us. We welcome all the feedback and all the possibilities that we can create to make our world a better place. Thank you again for celebrating this special day with us. And we are happy to see you. Enjoy a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you.